and welcome as we prepare to get another round of this season underway. We'll be racing around 3.36 miles of the magnificent Bahrain International Circuit today, with 15 corners and 2 DRS zones into turns 1 and turn 11. That should create some good passing opportunities. Keep an eye out for drivers locking the front left down into the tricky braking zone of turn 10. So as we look ahead to what I hope will be a very entertaining race, I have to ask Anthony Davidson what you expect to see in terms of strategy today. I mean, do you expect a lot of tyre management, a lot of fuel management?
Well, don't we always? I don't expect these are going to be any more important than usual, if I'm honest. What I do expect, however, are a lot of drivers getting into the pits early for some kind of undercut on fresh rubber. If you can pit before the person in front, have a good stop and drive a blistering outlap, there may be 1 or 2 seconds to be gained. If anyone gets stuck behind another car, for example, that will be the go-to strategy, surely.
So before the off, let's remind ourselves of yesterday's qualifying session with a look at the starting grid. Sebastian Vettel will start on pole. Fantastic qualifying from the multiple world champion. And Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Raikkonen, Bottas, Max Verstappen, and Sainz, Hülkenberg, Ricciardo, Grosjean, and Kevin Magnussen, Ocon, Perez, Fernando Alonso, and Leclerc, Gasly, Ericsson, Sergei Sirotkin, and Brendan Hartley. Stroll and Stoffel Van Dorn completes the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Here we are for the 2018 Bahrain Grand Prix, revving up to 5 red lights, and it's lights out and away we go. Vettel gets off very well off pole, and so does Kimi. Both Ferraris get a stunning start, as does Bottas. Gets a pretty good start there. Looks like he's side by side with Lewis. Vettel in the lead at the moment. Good gap he's got. Here comes Kimi around the outside of Lewis Hamilton. He's got the inside for the next corner. Hamilton goes back around the outside of Kimi Raikkonen. Kimi's going to try and come back at him now. Doesn't look like he will be able to do it. As you can see, that's, I believe, Daniel Ricciardo going toe-to-toe with the Renault further back. And he is behind him, and he's lost the back end. Looks like Ricciardo might have lost the place to another Renault, but I'm not too sure. Anyways, Vettel still has that lead, and Ricciardo's kind of all over the place here. As is Max Verstappen, who started in front of Ricciardo and has an absolutely horrendous start here. He's dropped 4 or 5 places here off the start, maybe 3, 4, or 5, not too sure, but he's definitely lost a lot of places. And now it looks like Romain Grosjean in that the triple left-hander. He makes the move, and using that Ferrari power is going to get in front of Max Verstappen, who's going to try back around the outside. He's not going to be able to do it. Romain Grosjean has legitimately overtaken Max Verstappen, probably the worst start Max could have possibly gotten. At least, of course, he didn't crash, but still not a great start from the Dutchman. As you can see, Ricciardo no longer defending from, I believe that's Sainz, and I do believe he is now chasing after Nico Hülkenberg to try and take 5th place, I believe, as of course the top 4 are the Ferraris and Mercedes, who have been much quicker than the Red Bulls here in Bahrain. And here comes Daniel Ricciardo on the back of Nico Hülkenberg. He's going to go to the inside, and nice and late on the brakes, down the inside goes Daniel Ricciardo. Very nicely executed overtake on the Renault. But here comes the Renault. He's got a bit of wheel spin there, as Kimi is under threat from Valtteri Bottas. Round the outside goes Bottas on Kimi Raikkonen. Kimi holds the inside in that Ferrari. Vettel's pulled a brilliant gap here, and he's doing really good. But Ricciardo does get in front of Hülkenberg as he loses the back end again. He's struggling to keep that Red Bull in a straight line, but really, it's incredible how much faster the Mercedes and Ferrari have been this weekend. But what's also incredible is how Ferrari have coped after being clearly off the pace of the Mercedes, and clearly, especially Lewis, who was mighty quick in the opening round in Australia, is now struggling to keep up with Seb, who's doing exactly what Lewis did back in Australia. So it looks like the Mercedes seems to have the advantage in those medium and high-speed corners, while the Ferrari seems to have the advantage through the low-speed corners, as well as a slight advantage on those straights. But of course that can change throughout the season. But at the moment it is a surprise to see the Ferrari better in the straight line after in 2017 we saw the Ferrari really didn't have very good straight line speed. But anyways, Kimi Räikkönen, who was defending from Valtteri Bottas before, is now on the back of Lewis Hamilton. This is the straight line speed I was talking about. And I don't believe he even has DRS. He's gonna... No, he does have DRS. He goes to the outside, round the outside of Lewis Hamilton. Can he outbrake him? Not quite. Lewis very late on those brakes. But yeah, sorry, I don't think Kimi had DRS. I don't think it had been activated yet. But anyways, here comes Bottas again on Kimi. Round the outside, Kimi locks up and goes into the side of Bottas, and Bottas has to back off there. Kimi making a bit of a mistake there in that Ferrari, so he's gonna really want to get past Lewis as soon as possible, because he's clearly got the pace. While Danny Rick here doesn't seem to have the pace because he's struggling to pull away from the Renaults. Renault having a much better time than they did last season in 2017. That 2018 car is looking very, very quick. Anyways, here comes Kimi. He's opened up the DRS. He's a bit too far back from Lewis, though. As you can see, Vettel continuing to pull that gap. He's already out of the DRS of Lewis Hamilton. And even in qualifying, he was over a tenth faster. He's clearly got the pace, but here comes Carlos Sainz down the inside of Daniel Ricciardo. And it hasn't worked, but it looks like that Red Bull is really, really, really struggling in a straight line, as the two Renaults seem to have a lot less drag. Because the Renault engine doesn't seem too bad this season, but the McLarens and Red Bulls have struggled a lot more in the speed traps compared to the Renaults because of the amount of drag that both of those teams run. But of course, it does make them better in the corners. Anyways, here comes Kimi with the DRS. Looks like he's a bit too far back on this attempt to overtake his old rival, Lewis Hamilton. Again, go down the straights, but it's not enough to get past Lewis Hamilton. But anyways, here is Vettel in the lead of the race. Very nice lead he's got here, pulling away from Lewis in that beautiful Ferrari. Ricciardo is in front of the two Renaults, followed by Magnussen, who's doing a pretty good job keeping up with them. And not only that, he's actually passed Nico Hülkenberg. Great job from K-Mag, using the Ferrari power in that Haas. The Haas is pretty quick in a straight line this season. It's not quite as fast as the Force India in a straight line, but it is still pretty quick, and it is much better than the Force India through the corners. But anyways, it looks like Max is now catching up to that train with Ricciardo at the front of it, as Ricciardo seems to be struggling a little bit more than Max is, as of course Max got past Romain Grosjean probably with ease. And now, yeah, we can see Magnussen making that overtake on the Renault. That's exactly what Haas wanted, to be battling Renault the way they are. The fact that, of course, it's not that big a surprise Renault made that big a step up, but it is a pretty big surprise that Haas made such a big step up over last year. But anyways, here's Kimi Räikkönen with the DRS and that Ferrari power. He goes to the inside. Lewis goes defensive, and Kimi Räikkönen down the inside. And by the braking zone, Kimi can pull out in front of Lewis and block him off. Although that is a little bit dangerous, as Lewis could have locked up and ran right into the back of Kimi, but of course that's not something Lewis would usually do, and I think Kimi knows that. So good driving from Kimi to get back in front of Lewis in that Ferrari. He's clearly got some pretty good pace, but now can he pull away, or will Lewis be able to stick with him and possibly re-overtake him? It looks like Ricciardo's doing a little bit better now with his Renault situation, as of course Max is also catching up to them. Max hitting that apex nicely. Oh, Ricciardo's in last. That means he must have pitted. Daniel Ricciardo taking a massive undercut here, as he must have been worried about those Renaults. And that is going to slow him down at the very end of the race, but it is also going to give him the pace that he needs to properly pull away from those Renaults, get out of that DRS, and just kind of have his own race, because he's not really going to be chasing those Ferraris and Mercedes given their pace advantage. As you can see, Vettel and Hamilton come to the pits, leaving the two Finns of Kimi and Bottas in first and second place. Will Vettel get held up by traffic and possibly lose that lead? I don't think he will, but of course this Formula 1, anything can happen. And even we saw last race, Ricciardo got held in the pits and it lost him plenty of time. And that is Seb behind the McLaren of Stoffel Van Doren. But here comes Sebastian Vettel down the inside, nice and late on the brakes. Go Seb. Brilliant overtake. Of course, it is a McLaren on worn tires, but still a good overtake nonetheless from the German driver. As you can see, Ricciardo still some ways behind Lewis and Seb. That is Kimi, who's probably going to pit at the end of this lap unless he wants to continue extending that stint. If he does, I do believe he will actually be under threat from Ricciardo. And if I'm not mistaken, Magnussen is in front of Sainz. Yes, he is. And Verstappen's all over the back of Sainz here. And I believe they're going to come to the pits together. Yes, they are. The three of them come into the pits. Magnussen's done a stunning job this race in that he's extracting absolutely everything out of it, because the Renault still seems to be like it's a little bit quicker. But Magnussen getting everything out of that car. Anyways, out of the pits comes Max Verstappen. Didn't get held up. And he's overtaking the Renault of Sainz. Sainz has lost tons of time in the pits there. And that's good for Max, who after that horrible start is really trying to get up through the field. But Nico Hülkenberg has not only overtaken Magnussen, but he's also overtaken his teammate Carlos Sainz. And a bit of a glitch with the camera there. As you can see, the two Force Indias of Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon very close. As we saw in 2017, some pretty aggressive battling between the two of them. And here is Fernando Alonso, I believe, on the back of the new young gun, Charles Leclerc. Yes, it is Charles Leclerc. And Leclerc is looking like a pretty quick driver, it has to be said, in only his second race in Formula 1. But it looks like Vettel has a pretty decent gap over Kimi. Of course, he got held up a little bit, so you can see Kimi has closed that gap down a little bit. But Kimi has pulled a pretty big lead over Lewis, who's always getting screwed by the Williams there, and that's losing him plenty of time, and it's allowed Valtteri Bottas to catch up right up to the back of him. And now Hamilton still stuck behind Lance Stroll, followed by Stoffel Van Doren. He's going to have to get past Van Doren as well, so Vettel, who was able to get past right away, meant that he could really pull that gap. But now Lewis has lost so much time to Kimi, as you can see, nice and late on the brakes goes Lewis, but actually it looks like Stroll almost went for that switchback. He didn't pull it off though, and anyways, here comes Stroll into the pits. Bottas will have the DRS on that straight, as will Hamilton though, but Bottas of course has that slipstream. Will Bottas be attacking Lewis into turn one? They're going to go side by side. Bottas to the outside, Hamilton to the inside. Hamilton, great defending, but Bottas tries it around the outside. Can he do it? Kimi couldn't. No, Lewis closes the door again. Nice and late on the brakes. And brilliantly holds the position. Now you can see they've lost so much time. Even Ricciardo looks like he's definitely catching them. But here comes Bottas around the outside of Hamilton. The battle between the two Mercedes. This is exactly what we want to see. Reminiscent of the 2014 race between Rosberg and Hamilton. Now it's Bottas. Looks like Bottas is finally putting up the challenge that we saw a little bit of in 2017, but now this is exactly what we want to see here in 2018. Max Verstappen now catching up to the back of Kevin Magnussen, and then he's going to have to go in pursuit of Nico Hülkenberg. As Hülkenberg's done brilliantly, as Ricciardo goes over the curb very aggressively in there, and now it looks like Lewis is pulling away from Bottas, but this race is going very well for the Ferraris. They are 1 and 2 with Vettel in the lead and with a pretty big gap, as of course Kimi also unfortunately didn't get points in the last race, and it meant that he's going to want to get the maximum amount of points that he can, because of course he does believe that after a while he can finally challenge for a championship at least one last time. And Ferrari have actually agreed to giving the two drivers equal status for the season. But for the most part, it seems like Seb is still getting the preferential treatment in the pits, but it's tough to say because both drivers are incredibly fast. Max Verstappen, though, is not looking incredibly fast as he is still stuck behind Kevin Magnussen. Anyways, here comes Sergio Perez on the back of Roman Grosjean. I'm surprised Perez was able to close down that gap on Grosjean, because that Force India wasn't looking nearly as quick as the Haas, especially compared to Magnussen. But now Sergio Perez using that straight line speed that his Force India has to really hunt down to really hunt down Roman Grosjean. As you can see, Marcus Ericsson getting overtaken by, I believe that's Pierre Gasly. They're going to go side by side, the Toro Rosso and the Sauber, and it's the Sauber that comes out on top. And earlier we saw Alonso battling with Leclerc, but here's a problem, because Seb has he's going very slow now. It looks like he's got a problem. He's got a huge problem. He's lost so much time. He's losing tons of time. And it looks like there is something strange with the engine there as Kimi Räikkönen takes the lead of the race. Vettel's going to try to switch back. It's not going to happen for him. Can he maybe come back with the DRS? Because Seb is losing so much time here. He's lost plenty of time. It's not going well for him. He's going to come back at Kimi. He is going to come back at Kimi. Kimi goes to Vettel. Sebastian Vettel goes down the inside. What a move from Vettel. They're going to go side by side, the two Ferrari teammates. But Kimi comes out on top as Vettel just doesn't have the power and speed to exit out of that corner as fast as he might have wanted. But he is still on the back of Kimi. Is he going to go down the inside? Not quite. So we're following the cars. Looks like Magnussen is keeping up with Hülkenberg ahead. Perez on the back of Grosjean. But something else to notice is Max Verstappen going slowly, and it looks like Max might have a problem of his own. That Renault engine strikes again, because he is not going very fast. We've seen a severe drop-off in his lap time. As you can see, Alonso still stuck behind new young gun Charles Leclerc. Looks like the Sauber is a little bit quicker here than the McLaren Renault, because the McLaren, of course, has so much drag. If anything, it is still like a Honda, because of it is still the slowest car in a straight line by quite some margin. Even and the next car would be the Renault. And now that's Vettel going very slowly. He's already lost 10 seconds or about 10 seconds to the Mercedes, and look at that. He's getting overtaken by Hamilton, and it looks like he might even get overtaken by Bottas as well. This is tragic to watch. Vettel, who had been dominating the race, he was doing so good, now getting hit with this engine problem. It's tragic to watch, really, because he's losing so much time. Here comes Bottas around the outside, and they make a bit of contact. Vettel's holding off Bottas as much as he can, but look at that, just on the exit. Looks like it's possible his MGU-K may have failed. Or, actually, no, that would have shut down the whole engine, but something within that battery has clearly failed, because he's, or at least it's very weak, because he's losing lots of time. And someone else who's losing a lot of time is Max Verstappen here. He's lost tons of time to Magnussen, and is now coming under threat from Sergio Perez, who did finally get past Roman Grosjean. So good for Perez. Now Leclerc still defending very hard from Alonso. And Van Dorn trying to make his way up the field, but it's not working out too well. Looks like Hamilton is catching Kimi, but not at a very quick rate. So it looks like Kimi might have just, slowed down the car and just tried to bring it home. I think that's what they want to do, because of course they don't want Kimi to have the same problem as Seb, because that would give Mercedes a 1-2, and that would be even worse than the 2-3 that they currently have. In terms of the constructors, Ferrari will be gaining points on Mercedes, but Mercedes will still have... no, Ferrari will actually be ahead in the constructors. And anyways, here comes Sergio Perez around the outside of Max Verstappen. Verstappen trying to defend as hard as he can, but it's just not working out. And Perez, with that straight line speed, is going to get past poor Max. Just doesn't have the straight line speed, doesn't have the car, because he, of course, has a problem, and they're going to go 3 wide. Here comes Roman Grosjean. Can he make this work? Max Verstappen, down the inside goes Verstappen in one final attempt, and he's made it work. A double overtake. What a move from Max Verstappen. Down the inside, his brakes seem to be fine. because he's pulled that move off brilliantly. But anyways, Sergio Perez gets back in front of him very easily. And Esteban Ocon, who had been quite some ways back, has now caught up because of this four-way battle. And now here it goes, round the outside of Romain Grosjean. Can't quite pull it off. That is fortunate for Ocon, who had caught right up to the back of him. Looks like Alonso's now losing a bit of time to Leclerc, who's doing a pretty good job today. And Nico Hülkenberg keeping a steady gap to Kevin Magnussen, but now Danny Ricciardo has caught up to Vettel. He's going to go really wide through there, but here he comes. Is he going to make a move? No, he's not. He's going to keep it nice and cool. He's so close to Seb. He's clearly so much faster. And the amount of time Seb is losing it's ridiculous. He's losing 2-3 seconds a lap, maybe even more compared to what he had been doing before. Here comes Ricciardo really trying to get past now. Opening up that DRS, getting in that slipstream, and flying past Seb. It doesn't look like the problem is exactly throughout the straight, but it's more the corner exit as Ricciardo breaks very late there and goes a little bit wide. It's going to give Seb a chance, but of course, again, you can see on the corner exit how much time he's lost. Actually, not really, because looks like Ricciardo's lost the back end. Here comes Sebastian Vettel, back down the inside. Ricciardo goes late on the brakes, round the outside, very late on the brakes goes Daniel Ricciardo. Somehow doesn't lock up and holds it in front of Seb. And now Seb has dropped down to 5th place. The man had been leading by about 4 or 5 seconds over the next guy, and had been pulling as well, is now down in 5th place, and it looks like he's only going to score 10 points today. As Nico Hülkenberg looks like he's a little bit too far back from Seb to properly attack with not too many laps remaining, and Charles Leclerc overtakes Max Verstappen. Max has lost even more time. This is tragic to watch from Max as well, but it's wonderful for Leclerc because I believe that puts him up into the points. Great job from Charles Leclerc, first of all, defending off Fernando Alonso and then overtaking, of course, Max Verstappen in a car that's not working very well, but still to overtake him is something pretty impressive, given it's only his 2nd race. Now Fernando Alonso, who had been all over the back of Leclerc, is now losing plenty of time because he's stuck behind Max Verstappen. And that's why it's so important for Leclerc to have overtaken him when he did, because now he's going to be able to really pull away from Alonso, maybe even get out of that DRS if he can. Of course, this is going to be frustrating Alonso in the cockpit of that McLaren, and I think he should be pretty frustrated with the weekend as a whole. The team were expecting a lot more speed, given they have a race-winning engine, or at least a good enough engine in the back, yet they're not really anywhere near Red Bull in terms of performance, despite Alonso actually overtaking Max, ironically. But of course, Max has a car problem. But yeah, McLaren, they're not really as fast as Renault, and they're not as fast as, and they're definitely not as fast as Red Bull. And so that's a bit of a disappointment. I think we were expecting a little bit more from the McLaren team, who had been hyping up that car to be possibly the best of the rest for next season, and it just hasn't quite worked out for them. But here we are on the final lap of the race. Nico Hülkenberg chasing down Sebastian Vettel. Of course, Vettel has that car problem. Can Hülkenberg catch up to him in time? I don't think he will, unless Seb really screws up these final 2 corners. You can see how much faster the Renault is through here. He's just a bit too far back to really make that move. And here are the fireworks in the background because Kimi Räikkönen has won the race, but Vettel is going to try and fend off Nico Hülkenberg for 5th place today. But it's Kimi Räikkönen who wins here in Bahrain.
That's a fantastic performance from Ferrari. It hardly looked in doubt. And Anthony Davidson, give me your thoughts. How did they accomplish this result?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs, and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy, and to stay out of trouble.
And as we can see, it's time for the podium, and as the drivers make their way out, there's a familiar red suit making its way to the top step. Fantastic win for Ferrari. And after this round of the World Championship, here's how things look in the drivers' table. It's a good result for Lewis Hamilton, who moves further ahead at the top of the table. And now I'd like to ask you, Anthony Davidson, who was your driver of the day?
Difficult call, Crofty, but I'd like to say Sergio Perez. He's just so gifted.